Hello, my name is Elena, and today I will be talking to you guys about therapeutic horseback riding. I will be talking to you about what it is, the benefits that it includes, the history, the theoretical foundations, give you a little bit more insight with the research and how effective it can be. And at the end, I'm going to show you myself implementing the exercise with a partner. So, what exactly is therapeutic horseback riding? Therapeutic horseback riding is an equine assisted activity with the purpose of contributing positively to the cognitive, physical, emotional, and social well-being of individuals with special needs. Therapeutic horseback riding can be very effective for those with disabilities, whether physical or cognitive. It is meant to improve cognitive, physical, emotional, and social well-being for those with disabilities and special needs. It is aimed to improve health, education, sports, and recreation and leisure. Now, according to the PATH International website, horseback riding can be very beneficial for those with disabilities because the horse's walk is very similar to the way that we walk. So in that case, it helps riders with physical disabilities improve in flexibility, balance, and muscle strength.
Therapeutic horseback riding dates way back into ancient Greek, back in 600 BC, where Orbuses of ancient Lydia documented the therapeutic value of riding. And even then, when it wasn't acknowledged that horseback riding was the mode of transportation, they knew that it had benefits in therapeutic health and well-being improvement. And then we go on to the 1800s in 1875, where French physician Cassien conducted the first study determining the usefulness of therapeutic riding, and he concluded that the therapy was beneficial in treating neurological disorders because of the improved posture, balance, and psychological perspectives. Then moving on to the 1960s, where therapeutic horseback riding was first introduced to the United States and Canada, where the Community Association of Riding and Disabled was formed. Then later on, we move on to the 1969, in which the North American Riding for the Handicapped Association was formed. And this association has helped form safety guidelines and training. It certifies instructors and accredits therapeutic horseback riding centers. It distributes information and offers low-cost insurance to members' organization. And this is where we find ourselves now, with disabled riders being able to compete and participate nationwide and internationally with different forms of horseback riding, including hippotherapy and physical therapy on the horse, and either other ways as well as using horsemanship and getting all the benefits that therapeutic horseback riding has. One of the theoretical approaches used in equine therapy was founded by the North American Handicapped Riding Association. In this model, which is more of a behavioral model, clients were given exercises to perform with the horses, while therapists would comment on their behavior with the horses and help them draw parallels to their behavior in the outside world. Then, using the horses, the clients were encouraged to try different behaviors in order to assess their efficacy. And if the client was able to get the horse to respond differently, this is considered a success by the therapeutic team. Now, later on, a woman named Lisa Kohanov which wrote a best-selling book, The Tao of Equus, developed another model, which is also used. And then in her model, her horses could sense when she was incongruent and move away. When the horses return to people, she said, it is because they are congruent. And this approach quickly gained a lot of following, and both of these models are used to this day. As discussed before, therapeutic horseback riding is meant to help those with special needs or disabilities have an overall improved life and quality of life. It is meant to improve their cognitive, physical, emotional, and social well-being, and it is meant to improve their overall quality of life. It is meant for those with disabilities to have that opportunity that they may not have before and give them that sense of normalcy in their life. It is overall an amazing activity for those to participate in, whether it's physical, emotional, or cognitive gain that they're trying to look for. In this part of the video, we will be discussing how therapeutic horseback riding can be very effective for those with cognitive, emotional, and physical disorders, and how it can improve them. We're going to look at 3 particular disorders in this case, and we will focus on depression, autism, and in this case cerebral palsy, but also maybe touch bases with muscular dystrophy as well. And here we're going to look at a few studies that went into depth and researched the effectiveness that therapeutic horseback riding has with these disorders. And here we're going to start a little bit with depression. With depression, the Korean National University of Transportation did a study, and I'm going to put the numbers here up on the screen next so you can follow along. And the results, the study took place over 4 weeks, and they were trying to see how effective therapeutic horseback riding would be with these children aged 10 to 12 with ADHD, anxiety, depression, self-esteem, and learning disorders. And they were able to see that the therapeutic horseback riding program during these 4 weeks significantly increased these disorders. Next, we will discuss the effectiveness of therapeutic horseback riding with those with musculoskeletal disorders. In this case, we're going to focus on cerebral palsy. And in this case, I found a study, and you can follow along on the screen. A study done throughout a 6-week program for children 8 and 9 through Okay, so next we will look at the effectiveness of equine therapy with those with autism. In this case, we're going to look at a study done by the University of Colorado. This study was done with the use of 127 children between ages of 6 and 16. And in this case, they did a follow-up with around 44% of the participants. Everything will be up on the screen. And in this follow-up, the researchers noticed that there was so many reductions in irritability in these children and less hyperactivity. And in these children, it was also noted that the horse's rhythmic strides had a very calming effect on these children, on their brain, which is why you saw a reduction of hyperactivity and irritability as well. And in therapeutic horseback riding, there's often a lot of cognitive work that goes into these lesson plans and it's not just physical. It's very much cognitive, emotional, and very all around helpful and beneficial for these people with disabilities. Hi, my name is Yelena Rodriguez, and today we'll be discussing therapeutic horseback riding and how to adapt the activity for people with cerebral palsy. Today we will not have the luxury of having a horse with us, but we will be using this gait as our horse for the day. So what exactly is therapeutic horseback riding? Well, therapeutic horseback riding, its purpose is to improve the cognitive, physical, emotional, social well-being of those with disabilities, in this case cerebral palsy. And what exactly is cerebral palsy? It can often affect the body movement, muscle coordination, and posture of individuals. It's a muscular disorder which can often make it difficult for people with it to do everyday activities basically. So today we will have our participant up on here as our horse, and we will be demonstrating how to adapt the activity. Alright, so this will be our participant for the day. He's going to help us show how therapeutic horseback riding can be adapted to those with cerebral palsy. And the reason that therapeutic horseback riding is so effective with people with cerebral palsy is because of the way that the horse walks is very similar to the way that we walk, which helps them move their muscles in the way that they are normally not able to. So people with cerebral palsy are often low mobility. In those cases, people tend to use wheelchairs or crutches. In the cases of wheelchairs, they tend to use cranes in order to be mounted onto the horse. And in the case of people with crutches, they tend to need extra assistance to mount onto the horse. So in this case, we will not be showing the mounting process. Alright, so in equine therapy, patients will often need extra assistance. This is where the use of a side walker will come into place. These can be used for physical support or emotional support or whatever the patient may need. In the case of cerebral palsy, it's more than likely going to be physical support. And in this case, we're going to show you the holds that are often used for the riders. So with demonstrating on my patient right here, sometimes with someone that may need more help, they will do a thigh hold like this onto the patient, or even what is called a heel hold, or sometimes maybe even both. Okay, so therapeutic horseback lessons are typically around 60 minutes, basically an hour, and they tend to start with a warm-up exercise to get the patient ready and going and excited about the lesson. So here we're going to instruct our patient to lift his arms up and have them moving in a helicopter circle. This is often helped with a side walker as well if the patient needs it, and if they're able to do it alone, they do not need that adaptation, of course. Okay, so here we have our patient. He's starting his warm-up with his arm moving in circles, and here we're also going to have him move his foot in circles as well in his stirrups. Alright, so our warm-up tends to last around 15 minutes beginning of the lesson, and it can be in 15-minute intervals or continuous depending on the patient's endurance. So now we will begin our lesson, in which we will get our rider engaged in our games and other ways to get them involved while working their muscles as well on the horse. So one way that it's often used is they will put ground poles on the floor in front of the horses, and we will have our patient stretch his arms out in a 2-point position when going over the ground poles, and then reach back into his regular sitting position once that one's done. This can also be used with the assistance of sidewalkers, and this can often be helpful for the muscles of the patients. Okay, so thank you for watching my video. During these lessons, you can also see that it's very mental as well, and very cognitive based for improvement there. In some of the games, you can throw a dagger also move, and you'll see different games like that can also be offered with adults with cerebral palsy. We decided to focus a bit more on the physical aspect of it, as it is a muscular disease or disorder. Basically, that is it. Thank you for watching our video, and I hope that you enjoyed our demonstration of therapeutic horse